Shall Succeed Act, which he signed last December of 2015. There's money with that. JROTC, there's money with that. Title I, there's money with that. The reason why there's money is because it's not a constitutional right. You understand? So whenever the federal government creates a program, they finance that program. Okay? So for Section 504, there is no money with 504, okay? Because 504 it comes under constitutional rights. 504 is civil rights legislation. The 14th Amendment guarantees everyone equal protection under the law. So the reason the feds do not pay for 504 is because 504 is protected by the Constitution. They pay for JROTC because JROTC is not protected by the Constitution. They pay for Title I because Title I is not protected by the Constitution. Do you understand? So education is a state right, federal interest, local function. By local function, we mean that it's carried out on the local level. Okay? Now, giftedness is not a constitutional right. But when the federal government created special law, somewhere within the history of special ed, they created a protection for gifted students. So for example, when I first became a school psychologist at the turn of the 21st century, year 2000, mental giftedness was a special ed category. There were 14 disabilities, not 13, which is what we have now. So now we have deafness, blindness, traumatic brain injury, orthopedic impairment, multiple disability, other health impairment, speech and language impairment, learning disability, emotional disturbance, autism, mental retardation, which Obama changed to intellectual disability. Okay, but we also had MG. Mental giftedness was once a special ed category. However, back in 2000, early 2000s, maybe 2005, somewhere in there, they took giftedness out of the special ed law. When they took giftedness out of the special ed law, it no longer had federal protection. It was regulated back to the states to determine whether or not they wanted to have a gifted program. So what I'm saying is, first thing you need to find out if you think you have a gifted child. The first thing you need to find out if you think you have a gifted child, you need to find out whether or not the state or territory that you live in, whether it still has a gifted law. Does the state you live in still have a gifted policy? Does the state you live in still have a gifted regulation? So for example, I live in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania still has a gifted law, okay? It is Chapter 16. Chapter 16 of the Pennsylvania Code is the code for gifted students. Unlike a state like Michigan, from what I understand, Michigan, and I'll be in Detroit December 30th, Michigan does not have a gifted law, from what I understand, okay? That means that if you think your child is mentally gifted in Michigan, the school district is not required to evaluate for giftedness. And if the child is gifted, you cannot force the school district to provide your child with gifted support. But in Pennsylvania, you can request that your child be evaluated for gifted. And in Pennsylvania, you can force or request the school districts and charter schools to provide your child with a gifted education. So again, since giftedness is no longer protected under federal special ed law, you have to find out if your state has giftedness. I don't know if every state has giftedness or not, okay, because that's 50 states. I can't remember all that. It's your job. My job is to empower you, okay? You have to do the research, okay? It's one phone call. It's one phone call. Contact your state Department of Education and find out if there still is a gifted law in your state. I would not trust my child's local school district to tell me whether or not there is a gifted law in the state, because school districts lie. School districts do not want to provide gifted education, and the reason school districts do not want to provide gifted education is because they don't get paid for it. Okay? You got paid for it. When giftedness was a part of the special ed code, schools were paid for MG students. I remember this. At the end of the year, the principals at the schools I serviced in Philadelphia, they would give me a list of like 30 kids, and they wanted me to test all these kids at the end of the year so they could get the money. They did not care about the child being gifted. In most cases, they did nothing to support the